The ceremony was cold and silent, just like the girl standing in the center. Alien nobles from different worlds sat on glowing chairs, watching with blank faces at the front. Lord Varn, a high-ranking alien noble, stood with pride in his eyes. Beside him was his daughter, tall, silver-skinned, with deep violet eyes and lips sealed tight. She had never spoken a single word since birth. They called her the Silent One, a child with no voice and no value. Today, he was giving her away, not to a prince or a warrior, but to a human, a captain from Earth. Captain Yolan, Lord Varn said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. As part of our treaty, I offer you this child, my own blood. The crowd murmured in surprise, but no one spoke against him. It was not just a gift, it was an insult, a joke, giving a useless daughter to a human. Captain Yolan stepped forward. Confused, he wore a dark coat, simple but clean, and his eyes showed both caution and curiosity. He looked at the girl, then at the noble. Is she all right? He asked. She does not speak. Vaughn laughed. She has no thoughts worth sharing anyway. The girl kept her head down, her face calm. Yolan frowned, but said nothing more. He nodded, and the ceremony ended. The ship rose silently into the black sky, taking the human and the girl away from the noble's palace. Inside the ship, Yolan gave her a room, clean and quiet. He tried asking her name, but she said nothing. She only looked at him with soft, unreadable eyes. Days passed, and she stayed quiet, watching everything, saying nothing. Some crew members called her creepy. Others felt sorry for her. Yolan didn't know what to feel. Failure in the engine room. Sparks flew, alarms rang, and a crewman screamed before anyone could react. The silent girl ran into the smoke. Yolan shouted for her to stop, but she didn't. She pressed a glowing hand on the console and whispered something no one could hear. The lights flickered, and the system calmed. The danger was gone, just like that. Everyone stared at her, shocked. Did she just fix it? One engineer asked, but how? Another whispered, she shouldn't even know how this tech works. Yolan stepped closer to her, eyes narrowed. What did you say? He asked gently. She looked at him, paused, and then walked away. Silent again. That night, Yolan found her in the observation room, staring at the stars. He sat beside her, unsure of what to say. You saved him, he said softly. Why? She didn't look at him. Instead, she took a pen and a tablet and started drawing slow, careful lines. After a few minutes, she handed it to him. It was a star map, but not like anything he'd seen before. Unmarked paths, hidden sectors, strange coordinates. What is this? He asked. She finally spoke, in a soft voice that sent chills down his spine. That's where they hid the truth. He stared at her, unsure if he had heard correctly. You can talk, he whispered. She nodded slowly, her eyes still. On the stars. Why didn't you speak before? He asked. I wasn't safe, she said. I'm not supposed to speak. Who told you that? He asked. My father, she replied, and her voice trembled for the first time. Y'all realized something important. This girl wasn't just a gift. She was a secret, a puzzle, maybe even a weapon. He looked at the map again. Do you want to go there? He asked. She turned to him, and for the first time, she smiled. Yes, she said. But it's dangerous. I've seen dangerous, Yolan replied with a half smile. But never a silent girl who saved ships. She looked away, thinking. You shouldn't trust me, she whispered. Too late, Yolan said, standing up. I already do. As he left the room, she whispered one more word under her breath, almost like a prayer. Thank you. Asterisk, the star map burned in Captain Jalen's mind. He had scanned it 3 times, run it through the ship's AI, and compared it with known galactic charts. Still, the results were the same. The coordinates didn't match any official record. They pointed to a sector marked unreachable, a blank space the galaxy had forgotten. Or perhaps erased. She stood beside him as he stared at the screen. Silent again, but no longer a mystery. She had spoken once, just a few words, and that had changed everything. He had questions, but she only gave answers when she wanted. Still, there was a strange comfort in her presence, like she knew things before they happened. "We're going there," he told her finally. She nodded without hesitation, as if she'd been waiting for him to decide. He gathered the crew, explained. The situation left out some details. Many were unsure, some were afraid, but none dared challenge him directly. The girl, who still had no name, simply walked to the navigation controls and entered the path by hand. The computer hesitated, flickered, then accepted her commands. As if it knew her, the journey was long, the stars outside unfamiliar. Strange shadows passed near the ship, but no sensors could track them. One night, as Elon walked the corridor alone, he heard humming low. Beautiful, ancient, he followed the sound and found her in the engine room. Standing near the core, eyes closed, hands glowing faintly. The hum stopped when she opened her eyes. "You were singing," he said quietly. "I was remembering." She replied, "This ship is old in ways you can't measure." He didn't understand her words, not fully, but he felt them. Like they carried more than meaning. They carried memory, pain, time, finally. They reached the sector. The stars around them felt wrong, too still, too sharp, like watching a frozen painting. At the center of the sector was a small moon, cracked and cold, with a single structure on its surface. An ancient building shaped like a spiral, covered in black metal and strange blue veins that pulsed like it was alive. She stood at the window, staring at it, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's waiting for me." They landed without resistance, no guards, no traps. Just silence, deep and endless, inside. The building was filled with murals, alien symbols, and glowing paths. Some crew backed out, disturbed by the strange whispers in their heads, but Yalan and the girl moved forward. Drawn to the center, there they found it, a crystal archive. Floating above a metallic cradle, the moment she touched it, light exploded outward, filling the room with moving images, faces, places, war, experiments, children, hundreds of them. Floating in tanks, half Phalian, half something else, Yalan stepped back, eyes wide. "What is this?" he asked. She didn't answer, just stared at the images as if seeing old nightmares. Then a new image appeared, a woman with violet eyes. Her voice recorded in the archive. "If you are hearing this," the voice said, "then my daughter has survived." Yalan looked at the girl beside him, her eyes locked on the hologram. Lips trembling. "I am Li Ray, former queen of the Whispering Kin." The voice continued. "They took my child, erased her name, silenced her mind, because they feared what she would become." Yolan turned to the girl, realization dawning. "You're not just his daughter," he whispered. "No," she replied, tears forming but not falling. "I was created to end wars." She said, "But they made me forget." The images showed Lord Varn younger, crueler, standing over a tank. Watching as she was disconnected and taken away, he had stolen her from her real mother, erased her memory, and raised her as a silent symbol of failure. But it was all a lie. Her silence was a cage, and now it was cracking. Suddenly, the structure around them shook, the crystal flickered and dimmed, and a mechanical voice echoed in the chamber. "Unknown access detected. Alerting primary guardian." "What's a guardian?" Yalan asked. She turned to him, her voice clear and calm. "The one who kept me asleep." Back on the ship, alarms rang. A massive vessel appeared outside the moon's orbit, black, spiked, and humming with power. It didn't match any known design, not alien, not human, something older. A deep voice crackled over the comms. "Subject Echo 1 has breached her chamber, initiating retrieval." The girl walked past Yolan, her posture steady, her voice quiet. "They're not taking." "Me again?" He followed, weapon ready, heart racing. "What do we do?" he asked. She looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly. "We show them that humans don't give back stolen things," as they lifted off the moon. Heading straight toward the waiting threat, Yalen thought of her first word to him, "Thank you." Now she was more than a gift. She was a storm waking up. The ship drifted through deep space, leaving behind the broken moon and the haunted archive. But silence did not follow them. Not this time. Captain Yolan sat in the command chair, staring at the strange data the ship had collected. The moon had given them more than just truth. It had also given them a warning. Some kind of ancient force had been awakened. And now it was watching, waiting, maybe even moving, behind him. She stood like a shadow, the girl once called silent. Now, she was the one guiding them, her voice calm, her mind sharp. She spoke only when needed. But when she did, every word felt heavy. She had no name yet, and Yalen didn't ask. Maybe she would choose one when she was ready. Suddenly, the lights on the console blinked red. "Unregistered vessel on intercept course," the AI said. Yalen leaned forward. "What kind of ship?" The AI paused, confused. "Unknown classification. Not in any galactic database." He looked at her. Her eyes were already closed. She was listening, not with ears, but with something deeper. "They found us," she whispered. "Who?" Yalen asked, though he already knew. "The ones who kept me asleep." The crew scrambled into position, shields up, weapons ready, but the strange ship didn't fire. It simply followed, matching every movement, staying just out of range. Like a predator playing with its prey for 2 days, it stayed like that, watching, trailing, never attacking. The crew grew tired, scared, frustrated. Yalen tried to communicate, but there was no reply, just silence, deep and endless. Then one night, it vanished. No warp signal, no flash of light. It was just gone. The crew sighed in relief, but the girl did not. "They're testing us," she said softly. "They want to see what I'll do later." While alone in the archives room, she activated the crystal again. This time, a different image appeared. A symbol shaped like a spiral sun. Yalen watched as her fingers moved across the controls, tracing a pattern that wasn't there seconds ago. "What is that?" he asked. She looked at him, and for the first time, there was fear in her voice. "That's their mark," she said. "The ones who created me, the ones who erased the others." Yolan blinked. "What others?" She turned the display, showing rows of children just like her. Some smiling, some afraid, all watched over by machines. "All of us were designed," she said, "voices that could unlock ancient systems, control technology, even stop time on certain worlds." He took a deep breath, and the others. She lowered her eyes. They didn't survive the silence. Suddenly, the ship shook, not from outside, but from within. The lights flickered, the walls vibrated, and a strange whisper echoed through the halls. The crew screamed as systems started failing. One engineer passed out as glowing symbols appeared on his skin. Yalen ran to the bridge, the girl following closely. "This isn't physical," she said. "It's code. Code." "They're inside the ship," she said. "Not with machines, with memory." She walked to the main console, placed both hands on the surface. Her eyes glowed bright blue. The ship responded instantly. Screens flashing, systems stabilizing. She spoke a single word in a language no one understood. Everything stopped. The lights came back, the air cleared, the strange whisper faded. The crew stared at her in silence. Yolan stepped forward, his voice low. "What did you just do?" She turned to him. "I locked them out for now. He looked at the screens. The unknown ship was back, closer than ever, but this time it sent a message. One line. Pulsing on the screen, return the subject or be erased. Yolan clenched. His fists. He looked at her, saw the fear in her, but also the fire. We're not giving you to them, he said firmly. She nodded. I know. Then she turned to the console and said something he didn't expect. I'm done running. What does that mean? He asked. She looked at the unknown ship, then back at Yolan. It means I'm going to fight them. The stars around the ship dimmed. The enemy vessel charged its weapons. But before it could fire, she stepped forward. The ship's core began to glow, responding to her presence, her will, her voice. This ship listens to me now, she said. Yolan grinned. Then let's give them something to listen to. As the first shot was fired, it missed, because the human ship had already jumped. Not away, but straight toward danger. Straight toward the heart of the storm. The hunt had begun, but the prey was no longer afraid. The stars felt heavy. Now, as if the space around them knew something terrible was waking up. Captain Yolan stood at the window of his ship, staring into the cold dark. Beside him, she sat in silence. Not because she couldn't speak, but because words weren't enough anymore. They had escaped the hunter ship. For now, but that escape came with a cost. The engines were weak. The crew was tense. And the girl, the voice-born weapon, was changing. Not in body, but in presence, in power. She was remembering things not meant for humans to hear. Late at night, Yolan saw her walking the empty halls. Not like someone lost, but like someone searching. She often stopped at the walls, placing her hand gently as if listening to whispers hidden inside metal. Sometimes she would hum softly, a melody that made the lights flicker, and sometimes the ship would hum back. She entered the AI core room without permission one evening. The systems did not stop her. Yolan followed, curious and cautious. Inside, he found her standing still. Eyes closed, hands raised. The AI core, a floating blue sphere, glowed brighter than ever before. Are you in control of it? He asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she spoke a name. A single alien word, soft and deep. The core responded, shifting shape. Unlocking data locked away since the ship's birth. I was born for war, she said finally. Yolan didn't flinch. He already knew, deep down, that she wasn't made for peace. Her silence had been protection for her, and for the galaxy. My mother was part of a resistance. She said she didn't want another weapon. She wanted a key. A key. To what? To the truth, she whispered. To the old machines, the forgotten systems, the voices under time. Yolan didn't understand all of it, but he understood her pain. He had seen it in her eyes. Not fear, but memory of cold labs, white rooms, glowing tanks, and quiet screams. She called me Echo, the girl said. Because I was her last word. Yolan nodded. Then that's your name now. He said Echo. She smiled for the first time in days. A real smile, not of joy, but of choice. That same night, the hunter ship returned. No warning, no signals, just a blast of light in the distance, followed by silence. And then another ship, a human one, destroyed in seconds. Echo stared at the flames, her fists clenched. They're sending messages, she said, one dead ship at a time. Yolan gave the order to prepare the defenses. But Echo stepped forward. No, she said. Let me talk to them. He hesitated. You think they'll listen? She shook her head. No, but they'll remember. She opened a direct channel to the enemy ship, using a code buried deep in the AI systems. The screen flickered, and a voice answered. Cold, smooth, mechanical. Subject, Echo 1. It said, stand down. Echo stood tall, her voice clear and sharp. "I am not your subject," she said. "You were designed to obey." The voice replied, "I was designed to choose." She snapped back, "Then choose to die." The screen went dark, and the first missile launched, but before it could hit, Echo raised her hand. The ship's shield flared not from power, but from her voice. She whispered a command in a language older than Earth itself. The missile exploded before reaching them. The crew gasped. Yalin turned to her, stunned. "What was that?" "I unlocked the ship's hidden protocol," she said. "It responds to my bloodline." Another wave of missiles came, but the ship danced through them. Echo was not fighting with guns. She was fighting with memory, with song, with the codes. Written into her very breath, the enemy ship paused. Almost confused, then it spoke again, this time with a different voice. Older, cracked, tired. "Echo," it said. "You were never meant to wake." "I didn't wake," she replied. "I was reborn." She opened a frequency to the stars, sending out a call not meant for humans, a song, slow and haunting. And one by one, old satellites across the galaxy began to flicker. Ancient machines that had once belonged to the whispering kin turned their attention toward her, toward the war-born child who now sang again. Yalin watched her, and in that moment, he knew this wasn't just about saving a girl. It was about surviving what came next. Because Echo wasn't just remembering, she was calling something back, something older than war. And far more dangerous. The stars trembled like they knew what was coming. Captain Yalin stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the void. The enemy vessel hovered at a distance, dark and silent, but its silence was not peace. It was the silence before thunder. Beside him, Echo stood still, her eyes glowing faintly. She wasn't the same silent girl he had met days ago. She was something more now, a voice that could command machines, unlock ancient systems, and awaken forgotten codes. She was the child of a hidden empire, born not in love, but in design, and now her creators wanted her back. But she wasn't theirs anymore. "They'll try again," Yalin said quietly. "I'm counting on it," Echo replied. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't running. She was ready. The ship's lights flickered. Warning signals began to blink. Another wave was coming, but not of missiles. This time, it was data. A deep invasion into the ship's systems, trying to rewrite control. Jalen's engineers panicked, shouting across the bridge. "We're losing comms," one said. "Engines responding to unknown commands," another cried out. Echo stepped forward, calm and focused. She spoke one word in the ancient tongue. The ship stopped shaking. Lights turned steady again. She had locked the core, but it wasn't enough. "They'll keep pushing," she said, "until we break or until we push back." Then she turned and walked to the launch bay. Yalin followed her, unsure of what she planned. "I have to face them," she said. "Not from here, from there." "You mean on their ship?" he asked. She nodded. "They're not expecting me to come to them." "You'll be walking into a trap," he warned. "I was born in a trap," she replied. "Now I'll break it." Yalin didn't argue. He handed her a small crystal. "You come back," he said. "One piece, one breath." She smiled softly. "I'll come back, different." The enemy ship opened a hangar, not with violence, but with invitation, as if it believed she would surrender, as if it had already won. She entered alone, stepping onto a floor that pulsed beneath her feet. The walls around her glowed with memories. She heard voices, not spoken, but remembered, commands, training, punishments, promises, 1,000 silent echoes trying to reclaim her mind. But Echo walked through them like fire through fog. At the center of the ship was a chamber, dark, massive, alive, and waiting there was the Guardian. Tall, mechanical, with a face like smooth silver and a voice like broken glass. "Subject Echo 1, it said. "Return to protocol. I've Made my own, she replied. You are unstable. It said, incomplete. I'm free, she answered. That's the part you never understood. The Guardian raised its arm. Energy crackled in its hand, but before it could strike, Echo whispered one word. The energy died. The walls shook. You're using the same control language I was trained with, she said, but I've learned a new dialect. She walked closer, voice rising. For every child you silenced, for every name you erased, I remember behind her. The chamber lit up. Old systems began to awaken. The ship itself, once her prison, now answered her voice. She wasn't just a weapon. She was the key. The Guardian lunged, but Echo reached out. Her fingers touched the central core, and the ship screamed. Not in pain, in memory, it remembered who she was. It remembered who it was made for. Yalan watched from his ship as the enemy vessel began to shake. Flames burst from its sides, and then silence again. Echo? He called through the comm, talk to me. Static. Then her voice soft. Tired, but calm. I'm still here. A moment later, a transport pod launched from the burning ship. Inside it, Echo sat, eyes dim. Body weak, but alive. Yalan pulled her out as soon as it landed. You okay? He asked. She looked up at him. I shut them down, she said. All of them. He didn't ask how. He just helped her to the medbay. She leaned back, eyes closing. The Guardian said I was incomplete. She whispered, maybe I am. But I still won. And outside, in the cold dark, the enemy ship drifted powerless. A ghost of a war that never got to start because one girl remembered who she was and chose not to be silent anymore. Echo slept for 2 days, not because her body was weak, but because her mind had gone to places no one else could reach. Captain Yalan stayed close, checking her vitals, reading sensor logs, trying to understand what had happened aboard the enemy ship. No one really knew. The enemy ship had powered down instantly, drifting like a dead starfish in deep space. No explosions, no escape pods, no signals, just silence. The kind of silence that felt permanent. Final, but Echo was still breathing, and that meant something was still unfinished. When she finally opened her eyes, she didn't sit up. She just looked at the ceiling for a long time. Yalan waited. Beside her, then she spoke. Her voice soft but clear. They're not all gone. He leaned closer. You mean the Guardians? She shook her head. No, she said. I mean the others like me. Yalan sat back slowly. I thought they were all destroyed. They were hidden, she replied. Put in stasis. Deep below the old zones, she closed her eyes again. I heard them, she whispered. They were calling, faint and broken, like echoes underwater. Yalan didn't know how to respond. He had seen what she could do now. He began to understand. Echo wasn't the end of a secret. She was the beginning of one. Later, she walked the ship again, her strength slowly returning. The crew watched her with new eyes, not fear this time, but awe. Even the systems reacted to her presence now, opening without codes, aligning to her thoughts. She was more than a passenger. She was part of the ship now. They scanned the enemy vessel again. No life signs, no movement. But Echo said something was still active, deep inside. Not mechanical, not a live memory. I need to go back, she said suddenly. Yalan shook his head. No chance. They left something for me, she said. A final whisper. He looked into her eyes, and for the first time, he saw something new. Not power, not pain. Hope. So they returned. Cautiously, slowly, with shields raised and weapons ready. The enemy ship didn't resist. It allowed them in, like a tomb waiting to be opened. Inside, the halls were dark, but not dead. Strange lights pulsed gently under the floor. Like a sleeping heart, Echo walked ahead, unafraid. The ship responded to her steps, lights rising around her, walls shifting, doors unlocking. Yalan followed, hand on his blaster, but it was clear she was the only one it wanted. At the core chamber, the Guardian's body lay frozen. No longer glowing, but beside it, a small device hovered, a silver cube with spinning rings. Echo reached out, and the cube opened. A voice played, but it wasn't cold like before. It was soft, female, and filled with sorrow. "If you are Echo," it said, "then you have survived what we could not. I am Inara, the first voice born. I did not escape, but I left you this. You are not the last, only the first to rise." The message showed coordinates, hidden zones across the stars, cryovaults sealed by the old empire, children. Like Echo, forgotten, silenced, waiting, Yalin watched the data unfold. "Are you going to wake them?" he asked. Echo nodded slowly. "I have to," she said. "They're still dreaming, but not by choice." He looked at the cube, still spinning. "Why did they leave this for you?" She smiled sadly. "Because I'm the proof that silence doesn't last forever." They returned to the ship with the data. Echo didn't speak much on the way back, but her presence felt stronger, like gravity around a new sun. As the crew prepared for long-distance travel, Echo stood at the window. She pressed her hand to the glass and whispered, "They made me to follow, but now I lead." Yalin stepped beside her. "You really think you can find the others?" "I don't think," she said. "I know." The engines hummed, maps uploaded, courses locked. A new mission had begun, not to run, not to fight, but to free. Yalin gave the order, "Engage." And the stars stretched as the ship leaped forward. Behind them, the dark ship drifted silently, its last whisper given ahead. The galaxy waited, broken, lost, but listening, and somewhere out there, more children like Echo were dreaming behind walls of ice, waiting for the sound that would wake them, the voice of one who had once been silent, and now would never be again. The ship moved through forgotten space. Not the bright lanes of trade or the violent corridors of war, but the dark stretches in between the lost zones. The empty maps, the places where no beacon reached, where only memory lived. Echo stood at the front of the bridge, her violet eyes fixed on the void. Captain Yalin watched her from his seat, arms crossed, heart heavy. He had taken on this mission not knowing where it would lead, but now he understood. This wasn't about peace treaties, or politics, or ancient empires. This was about voice, about identity, about waking up. Echo had changed. Her voice was stronger, her presence sharper. She was still quiet, but never silent. When she spoke now, systems bent to her will. Doors opened, lights shifted, stars listened. They reached the first set of coordinates from Inara's message, a dead moon, half cracked, orbiting a gas giant with no name, no signals, no power, but Echo said, "It's here." Yulin deployed a shuttle, took 5 crew members. But Echo went alone into the vault. She didn't need help, she needed to remember. The vault door opened to her touch. Inside were pods, dozens of them, lined like forgotten graves. Each pod held a child, not a baby, not quite grown, frozen. In sleep, perfectly still, each face was unique. But all carried something familiar. The shape of a design, the echo of intention. Echo placed her hand on the control panel. A glowing interface came to life. The AI inside greeted her not as a stranger, but as a sister. Echo 1 confirmed. It said, "Welcome home." Yalin watched on the screen as pod after pod flickered. Vital signs stabilized, systems rebooted. She wasn't just unlocking machines, she was unlocking lives. By the time she returned, her face was pale, but her eyes were blazing. "They'll live," she said, "but we need more. There are others." They traveled faster now, vault to vault, system to system, each one more hidden than the last, each child more difficult to reach. Some were almost lost, fading minds, broken connections, corrupted code. But Echo never gave up. She sang them awake. She whispered them back into life. Soon, the ship carried more than crew. It carried a new generation, some older, some younger, all gifted in their own way. Some could speak to machines. Others could change frequencies with breath. They were not weapons. They were possibilities. But possibilities attract fear. It wasn't. Long before other ships began to notice, whispers in the dark, strange energy signatures. Rumors of a ghost girl bringing the past back to life. One day, a message arrived from a human military outpost. It said, "Only this, surrender the girl, or we fire." Yalin stood on the bridge, fists clenched, but Echo placed a hand on his arm. "No," she said. "Let me speak." She stepped to the comms panel, activated it, and sent her voice across the stars. She didn't shout, she didn't threaten, she simply spoke. "My name is Echo," she said. "I was made in silence, raised in shadows, taught to obey. But I chose to remember. I chose to wake the others. We are not weapons. We are not your fear. We are your future." And then she paused, just long enough for the silence to matter. Then she said, "If you fire, you will not kill us. You will only prove us right." The line went dead. The crew waited. Yalan held his breath. But no missiles came. No ships attacked. Only a new message. "We want to talk." That was the shift. That was the moment. The galaxy stopped hunting Echo and started listening. Weeks passed, then months. Echo and her kind became something more, something strange and beautiful. Advisors, engineers, communicators, bridge builders between species and systems. They were not human, not alien, not machine. They were born of all three. And yet, they were something else entirely. Yalin stood one last time at the observation deck. Beside him stood Echo, her voice now carrying weight in every council across the stars. "You did it," he said quietly. "No," she replied. "We're still doing it," he smiled. "Do you ever wonder why they made you?" he asked. She nodded slowly, "All the time, and they made me to win wars," she said. "But I chose to heal what war left behind." And with that, she turned, walking down the corridor where others like her waited, laughing, learning, living. She was once a gift, given in mockery, a silent child handed off like a broken object. But now she was more. She was the first voice of a forgotten future, and her whisper had become a roar.